Welcome back to another episode of Wicked Darkness. I'm Kathy, your host, and with me tonight I have Renee,
Hi there.
I have Heather,
Hi.
and I have Kevin.
Hello, hello.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing?
Wonderful.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Good.
So tonight we're talking about a woman known as the Wailing Woman, or okay, I'm gonna try this. My Spanish is not good. La Llorona? Did I say that right?
Yep.
Okay.
La Llorona.
All right. So I always say La Llorona, but that's because I see two L's. Um, so we're talking about a woman that is steeped in the history of the Hispanic culture. Like I said, she's also known as the Wailing Woman. Um, she has different variations of her legend. And we thought we would talk about that tonight. With that, we did a disclaimer the last time. I'm going to do another disclaimer because this is also talking about um, possible abuse, suicide, child neglect, child abuse. So, you know, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware of what we'll be talking about. If that is too close to home for you, please turn us off right now. We appreciate, your support and listening to us, but we are going to be talking about some sensitive things during this episode. Um, so with that, we're going to talk about her variations of her legend. Um, La Llorona was once a beautiful woman named Maria. In many variations of the tale, like I said, this has gone on for quite a while, so there's a lot of different variations of her story. Maria's husband was supposed to be unfaithful or an abusive man who treated their two sons more affectionately than he did to Maria. The other one, there's the retelling of how her husband may have left her for a wealthier, light-skinned woman out of jealousy, rage, despair. She said that, to have lured her sons into a nearby river and drowned them before drowning herself after realizing what she had done. As a mother, you sit there and you think about what pushes you over the edge. And apparently that's what pushed her. And she just snapped and then realized that she, could not live without her children. Then there's another variation that Maria's also neglected sons drowned accidentally while she was cavorting with, gentlemen callers. So kind of like a lady of the night, but she also was a mother. And then another one was Mary lost her sons who were playing too close to the river, wading in to save them, and then she too drowned. And that happens too, where, your child is out in the water and you go to try to save them, and you're not very strong of a swimmer yourself, and then you end up perishing as well. That happens a lot, more than we think. So, I mean, those are a lot of different variations that could have happened in the past. It's been around so long that the story has changed so much, you just don't know what is true and what is not. But regardless, Maria's ghost, now La Llorona, is forced to wander the earth searching for her lost sons, and she's identified with a loud wailing cry. And in English, it's my sons, where are my sons? And in Spanish, Renee, you want to help me with this? What they
Yes.
would say?
Mis hijos, ¿dónde están mis hijos?
So imagine hearing a woman screaming, yelling, wailing, and that's what you're hearing in the middle of the night. That's going to be terrifying for anyone. Um, Heather, you want to tell us a little bit more about the origins of the legend?
Yeah, absolutely. So the folklore of La Llorona has several different origin stories. According to one account, her tale originated in Mexico. Another argues that it traveled through oral traditions from Spain. Some historians identify La Llorona as directly linked to the Aztec earth goddess. Um, Kotleku, Quatleque. Another tradition holds that she is Malintzin or La Malinche. She was an enslaved indigenous woman who was the primary interpreter and concubine of Spanish conquistador Hernan Cortez. This version was told in a novel by Rodolfo Anayas. It was called The Legend of La Llorona. It was published in 1984. Aside from these, speculations of La Llorona endures as a myth that continues to strike fear into the children of Latin American heritage. And I know that Renee also has some personal experience with this. Renee, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so the retelling of this legend has been kind of carried down, and so there's many versions of the story which are told to, kids across Latin America, and it's often to dissuade them from staying too late at night. So some versions claim that La Llorona can be summoned in like a seance-like environment. Others claim that she appears when children misbehave or when men find themselves lost and alone near a lake or river. And in some versions, she appears to mothers and steals their children, mistaking, the children to her own lost sons. In all of the alliterations of the story, encountering La Llorona has to be avoided at all costs. And if you hear the cries, you're destined for either misfortune or death. As she's a desperate, malevolent spirit, and she's said to act unflinchingly without mercy, often drawing the children she has found or kidnapped when she realizes they are not her sons. And some traditions hold that she will begin to seduce a lone man and then murder him as a form of revenge for her husband's abuse or adultery. And others states that she just kills men and women and children indiscriminately. Indiscriminately. Eerily, her wails are often said to sound more distant the closer she is to her victims. And with this story being told kind of generation, that holds true in my family with my mom being told this story when she was younger. And it holds true with the story being told to keep kids from misbehaving. And that's kind of one of the biggest things. My mom's grandmother didn't want her and her sister playing in the, alley behind their house. And so she told the story of La Llorona. If you hear that, she's going to come and get you and she's going to take you and, we'll never see you again kind of thing. So if you go in that alley, she's going to be there. And my grandmother telling me that story growing up, if we didn't go to bed early or if we didn't go to bed on time or if we misbehaved or if we were out after dark later than we should. And so a lot of the kids in my neighborhood have, heard the story also. And so, you play it with your cousins or your friends, pretending to cry or the wailing, and they're like, oh, Llorona's going to get you, and that sort of thing. And so it's one of those generational stories. I told it to my kids because, why not? And hey, let's keep the story going, right? So,
Did it work
yeah,
with
and
your
it's,
kids?
my daughter's freaked out by it still. And she's pregnant now and she plans to tell her kid once they get old enough. So yes, the legend continues. And, I had friends that, have heard the story that their parents told them or grandparents had told them. So, I mean, this is an age without, internet, social media, back even my mom's time, in the 50s, 60s, and they heard about it. And people, it's a story that just keeps getting told, this legend, so it's interesting.
It's very interesting. Um, Kevin, you want to tell some more stories that we've found out through our searches?
Yeah, so there's a person that talks about, back in the late 80s, they had moved to, it sounds like they were in Mexico and heard the story about Llorona, and they were the kids. They're in fourth grade, and the story was told that it's a ghost of a woman, that hadn't been paying attention to her children as they played near a ditch, and children, drowned, and then in her grief she killed herself. So consistency with all the other stories. Um, but these kids, they had heard the story and they thought it would be cool to be searching for Loriona and kind of like along the themes of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, sewers and things like that. They were exploring, trying to find, where's this person, and of course, not a great idea because the towns that they were in, they were exploring when it started to rain, and as they were getting trapped from the water because they were further down the sewers, they had said that they had heard the moans and groans of the Riona, and it had terrified them pretty bad. And once the water had subsided, they had ran out. So um, that's one story that's cited, and then there's another one where their mom had seen La Riona in Mexico when she was 15, um, and said that they had a feeling of being watched, and they were from a small town in Mexico, and I hope I don't butcher this town name, Zacatecas. Did I say that right, Renee?
Yeah, Zacatecas.
Okay. Um, this person had a habit of waking up her mom to go to the bathroom. It was an older house, and like a lot of older homes, I'm talking about really old homes, they had an outhouse, so the bathroom was outside. Um, it's like 3 a.m. when this girl's trying to wake her mom up and to use the bathroom, but um, she's calling out to her mom, and after her mom wasn't responding, she was kind of getting annoyed and was screaming. And at this point, the mom had turned around at the foot of the bed and seen her mom standing there, said her mom was wearing a white robe and just had a kind of a blank stare on her face, and her arms are extended, and said her mom felt extremely cold and a huge sense of dread. Said she'd never seen her mom wearing a white robe before, and looked down and saw her mom's feet weren't touching the floor, and started to scream and quickly threw the covers over her head. And her mom ended up that she was wearing something completely different, and had um, found her mom shaking in her bed. And boy, I'm really butchering this. Nobody believed her mom. Everybody told her it was a dream. And until a few days later, there was a power outage during which the mom and her siblings and her parents decided to sleep in the living room. And at the same time, at 3 a.m., they heard an undeniable wails of La Briona down the street. None of them slept that night. So I don't know what the 3 a.m. thing is, but it sounds like there's a 3 a.m. theme in that story.
Isn't that like the witching hour
The witching
normally?
hour. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
But
But
also that one gives me the chills. Just like
right.
imagine
yeah.
that you are like this person who just needs assistance going to the bathroom out by yourself in the middle of the woods or whatever. And you see this woman who you believe is your mom, and then suddenly she's floating off the ground in a white robe, and she has like a blank expression on. Like that just scares me thinking about it.
Yeah, that would be kind of terrifying. I'd be like, yeah, I no longer have to go to the bathroom anymore.
I have
so I'm
wet
gonna
the
have to
bed.
have
Thank
my
you.
wife listen to the podcast because she is afraid to go to the bathroom when we're camping by herself. So now I got to find a white robe and hang it somewhere out in the woods.
Oh my God.
This is gonna be great.
Oh no.
To time it around
Disclaimer
3
to
a.m. though.
Kevin's wife, I did not suggest this idea. Okay, this was not
No,
an idea we approved. Okay.
Hey, it's not
we're
Wicked Darkness
not
for
involved
nothing.
in this.
Yeah. And hearing those stories just like it gives me chills because it's one of those things that's just so ingrained in our culture and these stories being told, and you hear people, oh yeah, I've heard the whales, or I've heard this, or we were out camping and by the river and we heard her crying. And so it's just constantly hearing these stories, and hearing these you know people in different parts of Mexico tell these same stories. It just kind of, even, oh, that gave me goosebumps just hearing it. It freaks me out a little bit, you know.
Well, and the
Yeah.
fact that they all went to the living room and then they heard all together those
Mm-hmm.
wails, And I know, I don't know if this is what time period that this person had experienced it, but I know my great grandparents in the 50s, they still did not have indoor plumbing here in Wisconsin. So my mom and my aunts and uncles would, when they stayed at their grandparents' house, had to go outside to go to the bathroom. So I could just imagine, trying to do that here in Wisconsin, at least in Mexico, it's a little bit warmer in the winter
Yeah.
time. But trying to walk through, and because they don't have them really close to the houses either. So besides animals being out there, then having this woman that's in a white dress floating across the snow, that's gonna unnerve anybody. I mean, I probably would soil myself right then and there.
Well, and don't they say too, like there's a Native American, like the Wendigo, like
Hmm.
they try to impersonate, people, and then you hear them screaming
Yeah.
and you're not supposed to engage because that actually like draws them closer.
Right.
So it's almost like adjacent version of that where you hear the wailing, and like the farther they sound, the closer they really are. Like that gives me the
Yeah,
willies.
they do the same thing in the Appalachians. Like
Mm.
they'll hear things and they're like, if you hear somebody whistling or something, do not react to
Yeah,
that. Do
never
not
whistle at
answer.
night.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Don't. That's the same thing. Don't go near it because that's going to be the same thing that's going to come and get you. So, yeah, I mean, there's different variations. I mean, closer to us, we have Resurrection Mary, who is similar. She's, a girl, a younger girl, a younger woman wearing a white dress, and she walks, and this is in Chicago's suburbs, and she's been known to walk down Archer Avenue. People are driving down Archer Avenue and they'll see this woman walking on the side of the road and they'll pass her and they, will look back and she has no face, but she's like glowing white. She'll appear more to the men than she does to the women. And occasionally she'll be like in their cars. They'll, all of a sudden they'll have this woman in the back seat. You imagine you're driving and all of a sudden this woman shows up in your back seat and you haven't even pulled over to pick anybody up.
Yikes.
Um, so I mean, I've gone down there myself to
Nope.
see if we could see her. And the only thing that happened to my friend and I when we went down at night. The only thing that happened was my glove compartment popped open. Like we drove all the way from Racine, Wisconsin, down to southern part of Chicago, and we're on bumpy roads. That stupid thing never opened up once. But we get on Archer Avenue looking for Resurrection Mary, and the thing pops open. Both of us like jumped. I'm driving, so the car swerves. Um, but we never saw her. But it's the same thing. Like you're waiting for something like that to happen and see somebody, and then your glove compartment opens up. But Mary, she's supposed to, and we got Mary and we have Maria. So, I mean, similar names. She's supposed to be buried at Resurrection Cemetery, and Heather, you've gone down there with me to Resurrection Cemetery, and you saw that the bars were different colors.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and supposedly she had been picked up by a taxi at one point, and he said, where am I taking you? So she gave him the directions, and then they got to the cemetery, and she goes, nope, right here. And he's like, really,
This
right
is a
here? She's like, yep,
cemetery.
yeah,
Like,
let me out. And she goes out, and then she puts her hands on the bars, and then she disappears. And he's looking all over for her, like, that's not normal. And the bars were supposed to change a different color. When I went down there, they actually were a different color. She was supposed to have seared the bars with her hands, and so they actually had like fingerprints in the bars. But they had since removed those bars. But she'll stick to that road, and she was supposed to be at one time she was supposed to be coming from O. Henry Ballroom, and now it's called Willowbrook Ballroom in Willow Springs. But over the years, she's even been on like Unsolved Mysteries and stuff like that. And researchers have tried to determine, her identity, but there's nothing. There was one person that thought that they had danced with her at a dance at the ballroom, and he went to take her home, and same thing, he dropped her off, and then he ended up going to her house, and then the mom answered, and then he saw her picture inside the house at one point because he's like, hey, is Mary here? And she kind of brought him in, kind of talked to him. She's like, Mary died years ago. And he's like, I thought it was weird that, in his mind, he didn't say it to her, but in his mind, he's like, it was weird that she was really cold to the touch when we danced. But he didn't think anything of it. And he had put his Letterman jacket on her and stuff like that. But same thing, still with the white dress and all that stuff. And then she's supposedly been a victim of a hit and run after the dance, or a possible victim of a car accident. Also, have heard like a carriage accident. Again, the legends change. But she was hitching a ride only to disappear when asked which way she was heading or walking on that same stretch. And then its own like retelling of it. She's had movies and shows and stuff like that made of her, but so has La Llorona. She's also had her Hollywood debuts throughout the years as well. And then Heather, you know a little bit more about the Hollywood of Maria.
Yeah, yeah. So she's been depicted in a lot of films, going as far back as 1933, in a Mexican film called La Llorona. Um, and then there's another one, and I apologize, I'm probably going to say this horribly wrong. Maldición de la Llorona. And that was in 1963, also known as The Curse of the Crying Woman. But then in more recent films, Mama in 2013, The Curse of La Llorona in 2019, The Legend of La Llorona in 2022. And that one was a horror film starring Danny Trejo. And then another Guatemalan horror film, La Llorona in 2018. And that one kind of intertwines the folklore of La Llorona with the nation's history of genocide and civil war, which is really interesting that they would do that as a film choice. Unfortunately, I haven't seen a lot of the films, but I did watch Mama, and that one scared me pretty bad, thinking that someone could abduct my children and I couldn't see them. But in the end, it did seem like she was legitimately trying to help the kids. Like she had, I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it starts out pretty bad and then ends pretty bad. But the message inside of it all is pretty decent. But I know Renee had mentioned that there is actually a song that's sung in Coco, that's a kind of a version of La Llorona. And I think we're going to link that in the Spotify and Apple Music, Apple Podcast thing, so that way everyone else can hear it too. But it's a very sad song.
Yeah, the lyrics, are, it kind of starts off, the lyrics, salías de un templo un día, Llorona. So you were leaving a temple one day, Llorona. Te vi, salías de un templo un día, cuando al pasar yo te vi, so you were leaving, I saw you. You were a beautiful huipil. I thought you were the Virgin Mary. And it's just talking about from a field of lilies, you're crying. He who knows nothing of love, Llorona, does not know what martyrdom is. He who knows nothing of love does not know a martyrdom. And it's just this really sad, song sung about her and what, happened. And it talks about, her at the cemetery and, the wind moving and her crying. And so it's a really interesting song that kind of connects that story, um along with, not only songs, but then you have, books, children's books, written, one of them being written by Rudolfo Anaya, The Legend of La Llorona. And then there's one by Joe Hayes. He has a children's book called La Llorona, the Weeping Woman. And so it's very much intertwined into Latin American culture and, our history. And the legend is, passed down again from generation to generation, you know.
Wow. I didn't even know. Like, I've watched the movie that is kind of intertwined with The Conjuring, but I didn't realize that there was all these other movies and books. And I've watched Coco, and I never even caught that either. Um,
Yeah,
I get it. She's there to protect your children, but on the other hand, she's also very terrifying.
yeah.
I mean, you just come up and I'm going to take your children because your children aren't behaving. Okay, look, we all mess up. Why you got to take my kids?
Right.
Why are you punishing me?
Depends on the age. Sometimes I'm like, go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, yes, there
You're
is
stuck with
that.
them now.
There,
Yeah,
I keep telling that to my daughter-in-laws. They're like, "Can we give your sons back?" No, no return policy. They are yours now. Take them.
All sales final.
Right.
yeah.
They're like, wasn't there like a warranty? No, no, they are yours now. So I mean, in that case, yeah, I could see I could see that being a good thing for me at one point, for my sanity when they're in their moods. But even still, I mean, it's just it's a part of the heritage that has moved on through generations after generations. Because, I mean, how far back does she go? I mean, have we found like the origins of the beginning of her?
Well, like I said, like it was like it could have been the Aztec earth goddess, Coatlicue, um, or another tradition is La Malinche, which is that enslaved indigenous woman.
Mhm.
Um, but also you think about it, and where do most legends come from? It's a place of safety. Of
Right.
they were living in their own time and their own culture. They had their own financial thing going on, their own economy, everything. And then these Spanish conquistadors come, they steal their money, they steal their land, they take their religion, they enslave people, they force them to learn a new language, So I can imagine as a parent, I'm going to do anything to ensure that my kid acts right, doesn't talk to people they don't know,
Hmm.
doesn't have any opportunity to be taken,
Right.
So let's instill that in them, like this is the person who could do it. Let's not say that the white devil, but
Right.
Right.
let's put that out there that there could be something that could take you away from us for a
Right.
very long time.
Yeah.
I guess I could see that because I mean, my dad did that to me when I was little. My dad was a city bus driver, and my spot on the bus was like as soon as you got up the stairs and you turned to go into the bus, that first seat was my spot. So my dad could always keep an eye on me, but he always told me never to talk to anybody. So I
Mhm.
would just sit there and I like stare at people as they get on and off the bus. And one time, one person asked my dad, they're like, is there something wrong with your daughter? And my dad's like, why? And they're like, she just stares at everybody. She doesn't say anything. She doesn't, do anything. She just sits there. And he goes, I've told her not to talk to strangers. She's not allowed to say anything to anybody. She's just supposed to sit there. So I guess my dad put that fear in me when I was little, kind of like the same thing, like, don't talk to these people because, they could do bad things to you.
Mhm.
So in a way, it was a good thing, but also a bad thing because then it turned me into like socially awkward for like the longest time when I was a kid because I was like, I don't know you and I can't talk to you because you're a stranger.
I think about like the paranormal aspect of it too, is like as a kid, how many of us did we learn about the boogeyman,
Hmm.
Hmm.
or the thing that lives in the closet, or like there's a witch down the street that's going to get you, so
Yeah,
those are all kind of similar things where it's like the unknown of like a paranormal thing that could take you away.
right. Well, yeah, we had something in Kenosha, in one of our parks. We call it the Petrified Springs, and there's a place. It's a pavilion. It's for people to go and stay and enjoy, have a picnic or whatever. But as kids, this particular pavilion was known as the witch's house. Because out of all the
Hmm.
pavilions, this is the smallest one, and it looks like a little house, and it's got a little fireplace and everything. And it was at the time, it was back in the woods, so nobody really could see the witch's house from the road. So all of us kids would be like terrified because we thought the witch lived there, and if we went over there, we're all going to end up like in her cauldron and in the fireplace, and we're all going to die because she's going to eat us. So I mean, we had that fear of, the witch's house. There, yeah, there's always something in there to terrify your child so that they're going to behave. Um, and for the most part, it does work. I mean, we all pretty much listened, you know.
Was it not the German culture of Krampus? Like that's coming up.
That is coming up, yes. And yeah,
It's
we
not
Oh
actually,
it's
yeah.
not Happy Santa coming to
Hmm.
deliver you presents. No, you're naughty child. You're getting whipped and you're gonna
yep,
be put in a sack and beaten.
yeah, we kind of have Krampus around our house. So, um, we not that we're beating our kids or having any switches or anything like that, but um, it's something that we have adopted throughout the last, I don't know, maybe 10 years. Because my grandmother is from Germany. My great grandfather is from Denmark. So that's the whole
Hmm.
Bavarian culture and stuff like that. Yeah, we had Krampus, and so yeah, now my grandchildren are going to be learning about Krampus, and so the same thing. We're just going to be continuing it on. If you're going to be naughty, you're going to end up in the sack, and
Yeah.
we're going to have Krampus, and he's going to put a switch to you, or you're going to get a bell that's going to say Krampus on it, and no toys, and because he comes before Saint Nick. So either you behave and you get Saint Nick toys, or you don't behave and you get Krampus. So, but yeah, it's not as terrifying though as La Llorona, but
I was wondering,
Yeah.
Renee, too, like with you learning the stories, was there ever anything that was like, here's how you ward her off, or here's how you protect yourself, or was it just behave and then you're good?
Yeah, it was pretty much, just behave and you won't hear her kind of thing. Or, because I mean, with the us, staying at my grandma's house and stuff with my cousins, we would talk about like the scary stuff, and we talked about La Llorona, and of course then we also did, um, the what's the one in the mirror? Gosh,
Bloody
What
what
Mary?
am I
oh,
thinking?
Bloody
Bloody
Mary.
Bloody
Mary.
Mary. Yeah, so we would talk about Bloody Mary, and we'd also, do talk about La Llorona, and there was really nothing you could do to ward her off. It was, if you heard it, you better run the other way kind of thing. If you were out at night, and even like in my, late teens, early 20s, there'd be times where I'd be out late at night, and I kept thinking to myself, okay, am I near a body of water? Am I, am I gonna hear her? That sort of thing, because it's still in the back of your mind, and it's like, well, I'm kind of misbehaving. Am I gonna hear her? I shouldn't be out this late, kind of thing, and so even as a teen, you're still thinking about that, and I think it's more of that try to make kids behave sort of thing. Um, but yeah, there was really nothing to ward her off.
Is there
It's
like
just
an age, like that she doesn't go after the children after a certain age, or it doesn't matter?
I was never told there was like a definitive, like, okay, if you're this age, she's not gonna go after you. I
Hmm.
mean, even like, as like I said, as a young adult, I was still kind of freaked out about it. If I did hear the story or if someone said the story, and I'd be like, oh crap. It's like, am I gonna hear this woman wailing, or that sort of thing. And so it's still kind of like in the back of your mind. But I think more so with being a younger kid, your imagination is a little more, plays a lot more into it than you do as
Mhm.
an adult.
Hmm.
And so you're like, oh, did we hear her crying? Oh yeah, did you hear that? And the cousins start, telling the younger cousins, oh, did you hear the wailing? Can you hear that? You better get in the house, or, that sort of thing. And so it's I never thought of it as like, oh, when you're, I don't know, 18, it's done, because even still now, I'm like, I get freaked out if I'm out in the woods at night, and I'm like, okay, am I near a body of water? Am I gonna hear her? It's just one of those stories that it freaks you out, because it's something that's so ingrained and been told so many times,
Right.
Right.
you know.
And you could imagine too, like they say, like bodies of water, like they carry energy,
Hmm.
Yeah.
So if it's
Right.
if it's a moving current, even like it can still travel. And like, I liked, not I liked, but but I liked the version of the one that said like she was indiscriminate, basically, of like it's not just children,
Right.
Yeah.
not just this kind of,
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you all better behave. Otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
she's going to come after each and every one of you.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think too, like my grandma would tell my grandpa, if he was drinking a little too much, and being, being drunk and stuff like that,
A
it's
little
like,
spicy.
oh, La Llorona's gonna come and get you, because you're not treating me right or something like that, so the age limit goes out the window kind of thing.
Poor grandpa. He's just trying to have a good
I
time.
know. I know, right? God, grandma, she put a damper on everything. I better be careful too,
No
because like
fun.
my grandma always used to say, when she was older, she would say, I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna pull your legs when you're asleep. And I'm like, oh God, no, don't do that.
The curse of the grandma.
I know. Yeah, my grandma was interesting. So there you go.
Oof.
So you better not get too hot in bed because you stick your one foot out to cool off and grandma's gonna
And there
grab it.
comes grandma.
Mhm.
Yep, yep, yep.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That
And we
even
have her
that one,
picture up in our house. So there you go. You know?
I was gonna say, for the Day of the Dead, right? You got to do the ofrenda. You got to make sure
Right.
she got her picture and her favorite food out.
Oh yeah, that's a necessity. You make sure you
Hmm.
keep, you put all that out, because if
Ease your spirits.
don't, yep, gotta make sure that you keep the spirits happy, and you don't piss anybody off, you don't talk ill of them and stuff like that. And yeah, what did grandma like? She liked C's candies, or she liked, something, so you put that out for her. My grandpa, it'd be a beer, that sort of thing. So yeah.
Oh,
It's cool that
So
you guys
yeah,
have that though. I know every culture has their thing, but you guys are very into your ancestries and like that.
yeah.
It not that other cultures aren't into it, but I guess I could say the Americanized way that we are now, we kind of like have gotten away from all of our past because America's a melting pot of different cultures. We didn't, the only ones that had actually had their own culture here already were the Native Americans, the indigenous people. So, um, all the rest of us kind of just plopped in here. And as time has gone by, we've all kind of like lost that connection to what our ancestors had. However, there's some cultures that are here that are still very connected. The Hispanic culture is very, and the Latino culture is very connected to their ancestors. Like the Hmong culture is very connected. What am I trying to think of? Filipinos, they're all very Puerto Rican, they're all
Hmm.
still very connected. But those of us from the Scandinavian area, we kind of like lost all of our culture, and I don't know why that is.
Right.
Um, because the only one that's really close to their origins technically is Latino because you guys are right across the border in Mexico.
Right.
And, but even still, when you got the other cultures, they come over and they're still very connected. But for whatever reason, us Scandinavians, we kind of just like, "Meh, meh, we're done, moving on. That's all old, and we're not about that anymore." I don't know where that disconnect happened. I'm assuming that happened in the last 70, 80 years, maybe after World War II. I don't know.
Mm.
But yeah,
Mm.
our culture just kind of has gone to the wayside, which is sad. And it's great that you guys still have that connection with it. I wish that the Scandinavian, I can speak for myself as Scandinavian,
Right.
that, I wish our culture would have stuck a little bit longer.
Yeah,
But
and I think too, like with with my family having that kind of ingrained, and also having that family, having family coming over from Mexico, and um for a while too, it was sort of it was sort of frowned upon at some points to not celebrate. And I think probably within the last maybe 30, 40 years of my family, then we started kind of picking it back up again,
mhm,
you know? Um, and even like with my mom, and the later years of my grandma, we've kind of picked up more of like, let's really celebrate, with the ofrenda, and that sort of thing. So we've kind of picked that up even more now, and we're instilling it in, my mom has instilled it in us, and then I've instilled it in my kids, and then I hope to instill that with my grandkids,
mhm.
kind of keep that those traditions that we had, when we were growing up. And then, that it is, you know, to have that culture, not only as being here in the United States, but also kind of melding it together with our culture from Mexico.
Right. And I think that's an important part is that we as the, I guess, adult, because our parents now are in that age that we need to start to take care of them. We're that
Mm.
next generation that's come up. It's our, I guess, responsibility to
Hmm.
bring on the traditions. Even for my family, the Scandinavian portion of my family, we're starting to bring that in because Scott and I feel it's important to, connect with what we had over in the old country and bring it over here. And unfortunately, like I said, it fell apart somewhere. And so he and I have taken it upon ourselves to kind of like bring that back and try to start those traditions with our kids and with our grandkids. And I
Yeah.
think that's what a lot of people need to do is if you had some kind of tradition in your family, even if it was, a horrible thing, like, to scare your family to do the right thing, so be it, that's part of the culture. That's what you need to do to bring it back so that it doesn't die, so that that stays along because as bad as the stories sound, they had good, um, what am I trying to say? They had like a good reaction. Like everybody is going to be on the straight and narrow. We're not going to be messing around. We need to stay, um, where we're not going to get in trouble. We don't want to be on that side. We want to be on this side. We don't want to be on the dark side. We want to be on the light side, and
Right.
I think it's important as parents that we do that. Even if your children are older, you can still start a tradition. It doesn't stop. It's just like, any type of thing. You want to start it, start it. There's nobody
Yep.
saying you can't.
Yep. Tomorrow I'm making a Yule wreaths, so that's exciting.
Ooh,
Yep.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
nice, nice. I want to see pictures of that.
I will definitely show you
Yes.
guys. You will
Um,
laugh at my horrible arts and crafts attempt.
you know what? You got to start somewhere. I mean,
Yep.
it's sounds silly sometimes when you're doing it and you're like, what the heck was I thinking? And then you get better and better as you go along. Like I was telling Scott yesterday, I go, so are we gonna go to like Chicago to the Kindle Market? It's kind of like they have that Christmas market in
Mhm.
Chicago and all these big cities and stuff like that. It came from Germany. And we go every year. And I'm like, are we going to go to that? And he's like, well, I'd like to because we do it every year. And that's kind of like that family tradition. And then we pick up things from there, like
Yeah.
things that people have made, their little crafts and stuff like that. And then we put it on our Christmas tree or whatever. But, everybody starts off and it looks kind of crappy. And then as they get better and better, more practice, it turns into a great thing.
Yep.
So don't put yourself down because it might look crappy. It's okay. It's the thought behind it. That's what
Yep.
matters.
Yes.
Um, Anybody got anything else regarding her? Everybody behave so that La Llorona does not, come near
Oh,
you.
no way. I'm gonna go poke the bear.
You
Oh
don't
my
have the skull
God.
yet, Kevin. You have to wait for it to get shipped.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I live by a river, so please don't poke the bear around here. 'Cause,
Right?
not too far away. And apparently the bridge by my house is already supposed to be haunted, so I
Oh
haven't
no.
seen the child. It's supposed to be a child that has drowned over there. And
Hmm.
the 26 years I've lived here, I've never seen the boy. If I have, I probably thought it was another child from the neighborhood. But yeah, I don't need her to be coming down the street, coming out of that water. I'm good. Um,
Nope. Nope.
I don't need to poke no bears. She's doing her life. I'm doing mine. She can just stay in the waters,
Pretty
keep her.
bad when the
Stay over
skeptic of the
there.
group wants to be the provocator as well. Like, well, that's probably not the best of ideas, but why not? You gotta get, the paranormal awake, right?
Yeah, I think I got enough paranormal around my house right now that I don't think I need to add, her to the mix. I mean, I've already got an old lady that's here that apparently is supposed to be me in the future, I think, because she sounds like me according to my husband.
Oh
Um,
Yeah.
wow.
and then I definitely have a guy that's here. I don't know who that is, if it's my late husband or if it's a transient that has come here, but he wanted to say hey, so he said hey. Um, and
Maybe I'm just getting empty nester syndrome.
yeah,
Yeah.
empty nester. I still got three kids still in this house. I only had two that moved out. In fact, they keep coming back. I don't know what the deal is. Um, so and then they bring their kids. So I've got more kids. I need to build on this house because I just don't have enough. They're like, "Are you going to downsize? How am I supposed to downsize when you people keep,
Right.
bringing more people here?" I
Like I need
started
a warehouse just for the Warhammer figurines currently. Like
I know, right? We were just going
Yeah.
over that. My gosh. That's what Patrick was just doing not too long ago. It looks like he went back upstairs. But yeah, I'm like, I don't have room for your hobbies. I don't have room for you people. You guys are like outgrowing everything. So I really don't need her to show up and then,
Yeah.
start all sorts of chaos here, unless she, wants to put my one dog on the straight and narrow. I could use that right now. I don't know what her problem
I'm gonna
is.
say indiscriminate against dogs also, hopefully.
Yeah,
Oh
exactly.
my gosh. Especially Bella lately. I don't know what her problem is, but that would be a whole nother podcast. Um, so I guess the moral of the story is behave, do the right thing. Um, Otherwise, you're gonna have a lady floating in your house in a white gown, and her name is La Llorona, and she'll be wailing, looking for her children, and she's gonna take your children instead. So
Mm.
just
Oh, thank goodness. Just kidding.
so yeah, just behave, I guess is the moral of the story. Um yeah,
Keep your traditions alive.
keep them alive. If you guys
That's
have
right.
Traditions alive.
other
Yep.
traditions that we don't know about, please send them to us. We want to hear about these traditions, because it's a big world. There's a lot of cultures out there. A lot of people have things that we don't even know about and we have not even learned about, and we would love to hear about it.
Yeah.
So please send it to us at souphit@gmail.com. Um, on another note, a little bit more somber, We would like to pay our respects to one of our own that has passed. Last week we lost our good friend Steve Saxton. Um, Try not to cry.
Mm.
Um, Steve fought a good fight for 2 years, battling cancer, and unfortunately, he has gone home and he leaves behind his beautiful wife, Jill. So, whew, this is harder than I thought.
Hmm.
Um, so we just wanted to say thank you, Steve, for all that you've done with us. Um, and we really miss you, and we're going to miss you, and you're going to be with us for as long as we possibly can keep you around us. Please come and visit us during our times out on investigations. We'll keep one case waiting for you to bring into the location because all you could do was lift one case. It was kind of a joke between Scott and Steve. Um, but we really do want to say thank you and we miss you. And cancer really freaking sucks. So, for all those that are battling cancer or know somebody that's battling cancer, you're not alone. We're right there with you in the pain and the horror that comes along with it. It touches everybody, and hopefully someday soon they'll be able to find a cure to all the cancers so nobody has to deal with that ever again. It's a horrible disease. So, yeah. Um, Anybody else got anything else to say?
Definitely gonna miss him.
Mhm.
Steve was always respectful, gentle, eager to teach, eager to learn, funny.
Yeah,
Always a pleasure to investigate with. Yeah, it's gonna leave a gap.
it will.
Um, it's gonna take some time for all of us to figure out what's the new normal.
Right. I just know if we go and investigate any place that has a boiler room, do not expect Steve's spirit to come with you. He hated boiler rooms and he will not go in them.
Yep.
Much as you try, even with the lights on, he says F you. Um, so yeah, he is a big fan of music, any type of music too. So if you've got some music, play it hard for Steve for us. Because he he was one of a kind. So
Mhm.
um with that, I guess we're gonna end it. Thank you for listening to us and thank you for taking the time to um share with us the horrors that we have to deal with and the pain that we have to deal with the loss of our friend. Um, so with that, for our skeptics, keep us grounded. For our believers, keep believing. I'm Kathy. Have a good night.
Good night.
Right.